To start wrapping up this discussion before we turn it to questions, I'd like to finish on this hopeful note. We see in the US, we see emerging political leaders who are fighting against this ideology. We see Vivek Ramaswamy, who is now an official presidential candidate who makes it a very central point of his campaign. We see Ron DeSantis in Florida being very successful in the fight against wokeism. In Europe, we see Meloni and we have Viktor Orban, who are also speak this language. So what you can see is that fighting the woke actually pays a serious political dividend. And I'm often a bit taken aback that the mainstream political parties continue to go against the people in advancing these very woke causes. How do we explain this enormous divide when they could get rewarded by actually following what the people want?
Well, I think that the answer is quite simple. It's frequently corruption, but there's also fear. It's very difficult with your political career. It seems, at least, very difficult to maintain your political career, to survive the struggle session that you will get if you stand up against this. Some people can. Ron DeSantis does. Ron DeSantis has in Florida. And if you look at his example, I told people at dinner last night, and people in Europe often don't know this, in 2018, Ron DeSantis was elected by the narrowest of margins, a few thousand votes. It's 50 less than 0.1%, very close of the vote. And then in 2022, he was reelected with over 10%. He had a huge shift to people voting for him, a very, very big shift. And so there are these big political dividends to pay, and I think people should be looking at this. But the fact of the matter is the previous question and this question are the same question. And Marxism was always a ripoff. It was always a way, at least after Lenin got a hold of it, for the bourgeois themselves, set themselves up as the vanguard who would usher through the revolution while they robbed a country blind. It was always this way. You have to be cushy to believe these ideas. That's an American slang term. You must be rich and comfortable. We call them champagne socialists in the US very frequently. You have to be rich and comfortable. And what we have is a situation where the hyper-elite have rigged the system so that other people in the hyper-elite have been told the following fatalistic concept. There is a change coming in this world. You can do nothing to stop it. And if you help us, you'll be rewarded. If you resist us, you'll be destroyed. And there are entities that have the power to have made that offer. I named in my remarks earlier the World Economic Forum. I know they make this offer. I know this directly. They make this offer. The banks, for example, BlackRock, which is headed by Larry Fink, but when you team together with the Vanguard Group and you team together with State Street Capital, just the three largest, not the other, they own or manage, I should say, the assets for 40% of the entire S&P 500. Imagine owning or having management control over 40% of the economy and what you could make other people do. For example, you could convince them that if they go against you, you will be destroyed. But if you go with them, however unpopular it is, they can help you. Of course, this is the logic of a mafia. This is the logic of a cartel. This is not the logic of a free system, a free country, a free West, or a free enterprise, free market. This is the exact opposite of that logic, but I think that that's the answer. The reason woke is so bourgeois is because it's to the benefit of the bourgeois, and they're using it to entrench their own power, maybe knowing that it's a bit of a desperate grab, knowing that if it goes bad, the pitchforks and the torches, not literally, might come out. Don't go violent. They'll beat you if you go violent. So I think that these two questions are the same question. I think that the reason we see, besides just typical political cowardice, not realizing the lesson that Ron DeSantis should have taught not just American politicians but the world, but also if we set aside those fears, not just that fear, we have a logic where there is actually not the freedom that we think we have, that we've already lost much of that freedom, and that is what's causing the bourgeois elements to entrench their power this way.